Hi everybody, welcome back to Goodnight Lighthouse. I'm Miss Dorothy and I'm here to read you another story, and I've got a great book tonight because it's by Dr. Seuss. We love our Dr. Seuss books, but this one is really special because it's about a very special place. Have you ever been to the zoo? I love to go to the zoo, and this book is called If I Ran the Zoo. If I Ran the Zoo. This is a book about a little boy who imagines what it would be like if he was in charge of the zoo and what kind of animals he would put in his zoo. And he's got some crazy ideas with some crazy animals. And we need to get into this book and find out what they are. Are you ready to get into this Dr. Seuss book with Miss Dorothy? Good. I need you to sit up and listen up because here we go. If I Ran the Zoo by Dr. Seuss. It's a pretty good zoo, said young Gerald McGrew. And the fellow runs it. He seems proud of it, too. Look, Gerald's going to the zoo. And that guy over there, he's the zookeeper. But if I ran the zoo, said young Gerald McGrew, I'd make a few changes. That's just what I do. Look now, he's pretending to be the zookeeper. The lions and tigers and that kind of stuff they have up here now are not quite good enough. You see, things like these in just any old zoo, they're awfully old-fashioned. I want something new. Wow, he wants different animals. So I'd open each cage, I'd unlock every pen, let the animals go and start over again. And somehow or other, I think I could find some beasts of much more unusual kind. He's going to let all the animals go? A 4-footed lion's not much of a beast. The one in my zoo will have 10 feet, at least. 5 legs on the left and 5 more on the right. Then people will stare and they'll say, "Ooh, what a sight! This zookeeper, newkeeper Gerald's quite keen. That's the good old darnest lion I've ever seen." Wow, I've never seen a lion with 10 legs. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people talk. My new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will make people gawk at the strangest odd creatures that ever did walk. I'll get for my zoo a new sort of hen who roosts in another's hen's top knot, and then another one roosts in the top knot of his, and another in his, and another in his, and so forth and upward and onward. Gee whiz! Wow, his hens would stack up on top of each other. But that's just a start. I'll do better than that. They'll see me next day in my zookeeper's hat, coming into my zoo with an elephant cat. An elephant cat? They'll be so surprised they'll all swallow their gum. They'll ask when they see my strange animals come, "Where do you suppose he gets things like that from? His animals all have such very odd faces. I'll bet he must hunt them in rather odd places." "And that's what I'll do," said young Gerald McGrew. "If you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go places no others can get to. You have to get cold, and you have to get wet too. Up past the North Pole, where the frozen winds squeal, I'll go and I'll hunt in my Skegel-mobile and bring back a family of, what do you know? And that's how my new zoo, McGrew Zoo, will grow." Wow, he went on a really far trip to get some different animals. "I'll hunt in the mountains of Zomba-Matant with helpers who all wear their eyes at a slant, and capture a fine fluffy bird called the bustard who only eats custard with sauce made of mustard, and also a very fine beast called the flustered who only eats mustard with sauce made of custard." Wow, these are really, really different animals. "I'll catch him in caves, and I'll catch him in brooks. I'll catch him in crannies. I'll catch him in nooks that you don't read about in geography books. I'll catch him in countries that no one can spell, like the country of Matapapapatapapel. In a country like that, if a hunter is clever, he'll hunt up some beasts that you never saw ever. He's going to places where nobody's ever been. I'll load up 5 boats with a family of jotes whose feet are like cows but wear squirrel skin coats, and sit down like dogs but have voices like goats, expecting they can't sing the very high notes. And then I'll go down to the wilds of Nantucket and capture a family of lunks in a bucket. Then people will say, "Now I like that boy heaps. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is growing by leaps. He captures them wild and he captures them meek. He captures them slim and he captures them sleek. What do you suppose he will capture next week?" All the people are wondering what different animals he's going to still get. I'll capture one tiny, I'll capture one cute. I'll capture a deer that no hunter would shoot. A deer that's so nice he could sleep in your bed if it weren't for those horns that he had on his head. Wow, look at the big horns on that deer. And he's headed for the new zoo. And speaking of horns that are just a bit queer, I'll bring back a very odd family of deer. A father, a mother, 2 sisters, a brother, whose horns are connected from one to the other. Whose horns are so mixed they can't tell them apart. Can't tell where they end, can't tell where they start. Each deer's mighty puzzled. He's never yet found if his horns are hers or the other way round. I'll capture them fat and I'll capture them scrawny. I'll capture a scraggle-foot mulligatawny, a high-stepping animal fast as the wind, from the blistering sands of the desert of Zend. This beast is the beast that the brave chieftains rise when they want to go fast and find some place to hide. A mulgrantry is fine for my zoo, and so is a chieftain. I'll bring back one too. In the far western part of southeast North Dakota lives a very fine animal called the iota. But I'll capture one who is even much finer in the northeastern west part of South Carolina. When people see him, they will say, "Now by thunder, this new zoo, McGrew Zoo, is really a wonder." Most beasts are quite friendly, but still in some lands, some beasts are too dangerous to catch with bare hands. For those that are ugly and vicious and mean, I'll build a bad animal catching machine. It's rather expensive to build such a kit, but with it a hunter can never get bit. Wow, that's a scary looking animal, and he's going to catch it so that it can't get him. A zoo should have bugs, so I'll capture a thorough whose legs are snarled up in a terrible snarl. And then I'll go out and I'll capture some chugs, some keen shooter, mean shooter, bean shooter bugs. I'll go to the African island of Yurka and bring back a tizzle-top tufted mazurka, a kind of canary with quite a tall throat. His neck is so long if he swallows an oat for breakfast the first day of April, they say, it has to go down such a very long way that it gets to his stomach the 15th of May. Wow, he has a really, really long neck. I'll bag a big bug who is very surprising, a feller who has a propeller for rising, and zooming around, making cross-country hops from Texas to Boston with only 2 stops. Now that sort of thing for a bug is just tops. And when I've caught him, then the next thing you know, I'll go and I'll capture a wild tic-tac-toe with X's that win and with zeros that lose. He'll look mighty good in this zoo of McGrews. I'll bring back a gusset, a chirk, and a gasket, and also a gooch from the wilds of Nantasket. And 8 Persian princes will carry the basket. But what their names are, I don't know, so don't ask it. Look at all the helpers taking the animals to the zoo. In a cave in Catroom lives a beast called the Natch that no other hunter's been able to catch. He's hidden for years in his cage with a pout, and no one's been able to make him come out. But I'll coax him out with a wonderful meal that's cooked by my cooks in my cooker-mobile. They'll fix up a dish that is just to his taste. 3 chicken croquettes made of library paste, then sprinkled with peanut shucks, pickled and spiced, then baked at 600 degrees and then iced. It's a mighty hard cooking to cook up such feast, but that's how the new zoo, McGrew Zoo, gets beast. I'll go to the faraway mountains of Tabask, near the river of Nobusk, and I'll bring back an obusk, a sort of kind of a thing a mob bobusk, who only eats rhubarb and corn on the cob cusk. Then people will flock to my zoo in a mob busk. McGrew, they will say, does a wonderful job busk. He hunts with such vim, and he hunts with such vigor. His new zoo, McGrew Zoo, gets bigger and bigger. The people are really loving these different animals. And speaking of birds, there's a Russian Paluski, whose headski and redski and belski is blueski. I'll get one of them for my Zooski Magrewski. Then the whole town will gasp, why, this boy never sleeps. No keeper before ever kept what he keeps. There's no telling what that young fellow will do. And then just to show them, I'll sail to Catroo and bring back an Itchka, a Preep, and a Proo, a Nurgle, a Nerd, and a Seersucker too. I'll hunt in the jungles of Hippo-no-Hungus and bring back a flock of wild Bippo-no-Bungus. The Bippo-no-Bungus from Hippo-no-Hungus are better than those down in Dippo-no-Dungest, and smarter than those out in Nippo-no-Nungest, and that's why I'll catch 'em in Hippo-no-Hungus, instead of those others in Nungus and Dungus. And people will say, when they see these bips bounding, this zookeeper, new keeper's simply astounding. He travels so far that you'd think he would drop. When do you suppose this young fellow will stop? Stop? Well, I should, but I won't stop until I've captured the Fizzamadilla Zadil, the world's biggest bird from the island of Guac, who's only eats pine trees and spits out the bark. And boy, when I get him back home to my park, the whole world will say, young McGrew's made his mark. He's built a zoo better than Noah's whole ark. These wonderful, marvelous beasts that he chooses have made him the greatest of all the McGrewses. Wow, McGrew's Zoo. Wow, they'll all cheer. What this zoo must be worth, it's the gold darnest zoo on the face of the earth. Yes, that's what I'd do, said young Gerald McGrew. I'd make a few changes if I ran the zoo. Wow, Gerald has quite an imagination and a lot of animals, crazy animals. I had a hard time saying some of the words to those animals. He went everywhere in his imagination to get the craziest animals to say what it would be like if he ran the zoo. I don't know if I would go to his zoo. That would be a lot to see. But I sure do like to go to a regular zoo with lions and tigers and bears. That's fun too. So you can imagine what kind of animals you would have if you ran a zoo. But when you go to the zoo, you can enjoy the animals that are already there. This was a fun book. Every Dr. Seuss book we read is fun, but I really, really liked this one. But right now it's time for all my little zookeepers to get into bed. I need you to get under your covers, get cuddled up, curled up, ready for a really good night's sleep. And tonight you can dream of the crazy animals that you would get if you were allowed to run a zoo. And you do that tonight, but tomorrow when you wake up, you go out there and use your imagination to play whatever you want. And whenever Mom and Dad come along, obey, and obey right away. And then come back and see Miss Dorothy, because I'm going to be sitting right here, ready to read another book to you. Bye! Thanks for reading with Miss Dorothy. I hope you enjoyed this book, and I hope you'll come back soon to read another. What's your favorite book? Drop Miss Dorothy a note and let me know. I'll go find it, and I'll read it to you. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you soon.